Mike, good to be with you. Always great to talk to you about Notre Dame football recruiting. Feels kind of weird we don't have any commitments to recap at this particular time. After what it feels like we had one like every day for 3 weeks. It's been incredible.
I know. But hey, you never know. There might be some good news around the corner, so we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, there's pretty good tease right there. Let's talk quarterbacks. This has been an interesting recruiting cycle. The Irish get CJ Carr, the 2024 recruit out of Michigan. They still do not have a 2023 quarterback. Now, Austin Novosad comes on the scene. From what I understand, Mike, he's a Baylor kid that Notre Dame has been in pursuit of, I guess, recently. Fill in the blanks about Notre Dame and Austin Novosad.
I don't think you can talk about Notre Dame quarterback recruiting without first mentioning Dante Moore. It starts with Dante Moore, who was it was him and Arch Manning, Notre Dame's first two quarterback offers of the 2023 class back in March of 2021. I mean, Notre Dame pursued Moore for, a year and a half, and, seemed like for a few months there that they were the team to beat in his recruitments. Seemed like there was a shift right around the time CJ Carr committed that the Irish, started to kind of fade away for Moore. Moore just committed to Oregon this past Friday. And Notre Dame has, kind of been behind the scenes, let's say maybe the past couple weeks, working on Austin Novosad from Dripping Springs, Texas, just outside of Austin, working on this young man to, kind of get the ball rolling on a scholarship offer and have a full story at blueandgold.com with him talking about the offer and where Notre Dame stands with him. It's definitely a good story to read. So he's been committed to Baylor since last December, and he still loves the Bears. I think that's probably the betting favorite right now if that was a thing, that he's going to stick with them. But he did officially visit Ohio State in June, also officially visited Baylor, and both of his parents went to Texas A&M. So those had been the three schools to kind of watch this summer, and then Notre Dame is kind of trying to sneak in and make a dent in his recruitment, hoping that he takes his time kind of making this final decision. So Marcus Freeman got on the phone with him Monday, offered him scholarship. Tommy Rees has been talking to him for a couple of weeks, and he's at least willing to listen to Notre Dame. So we'll see what the Fighting Irish can do here.
Mike, I've always been told you should always take one quarterback in every single class. Again, right now, Notre Dame does not have one in the 23 class. Can I give you a hypothetical? If things don't work out for any of these guys Notre Dame is going after, and maybe they bring in a 3-star quarterback just to have one in the class, do you think that's going to affect this program in time, or the fact that they have CJ Carr in the next class offsets that?
Oh, Darren, I don't know, man. Your last point is an important one. Like, no matter what happens for Notre Dame in 23, at least you got a really darn good one coming into 24. And I do think another kind of point on Notre Dame offering Novosad is that I don't know if it puts to bed the CJ Carr potentially reclassifying to 2023, but it definitely kind of shows everybody that, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Like, they're already kind of on other players, and my understanding is that I think Carr prefers to stay in the 24 class, but we'll kind of see what happens there. But look, I don't know, Darren. It so much kind of depends on, to answer that question, if Tyler Buckner's a stud this season and he stays healthy, then it's like, all right, 23 is not as important. Because he's going to be starting, for 2-3 years, so whatever it is. But if it's not, if he's not that guy, then I mean, are you looking at also maybe bringing in a transfer after the season? You just, I think right now for Notre Dame in the quarterback spot, all options are on the table, which kind of, it sounds like a good thing. It's like, oh, Notre Dame's got its options here, but I don't know. Like, I feel like you would rather just know what the situation is. Like if Notre Dame had Dante Moore committed, it's done. You feel good about Moore and Carr, whatever it may be, maybe Moore and not Carr. I don't know, but there's just a lot of uncertainty. But again, going back to what you said, they do have Carr, so that's really nice. But the difference between having Carr and Moore is Moore you get next season. Carr, it's going to be 2 seasons.
If I could ask you this, you've had time to reflect, and you touched on this in your opening comments. Is it coincidence that Dante Moore seemed to cool on Notre Dame when C.J. Carr committed?
Probably
Best
not.
guess on your part.
Probably not. I think it was a little bit of a perfect storm of Carr being ready to commit at the same time that Dante Moore looked to be trending away from Notre Dame. When I had been hearing that Dante Moore was looking to set up an official to Notre Dame for that June 17th weekend, and then he goes to A&M instead, that's kind of that's a little bit of a red flag. So yeah, it's I don't know, Darren. I don't know if I can write a book about it. I don't know if it was that crazy of a recruitment fall on Dante Moore, but yeah, definitely some, maybe more stories to be told at a different time.
July 26th, just a couple of weeks away. A very important event is coming up at Notre Dame. Give our listeners and our viewers a little idea what's going to be happening at Notre Dame.
Yeah, so last summer, I think it was July 27th, actually, Notre Dame had a grill and chill, is what they called it. Now, that kind of sounds like a lame name, but the kids loved it. So it's grilling and chilling and, cornhole, cookout, just a good time hanging out with the Notre Dame coaches and players. So Notre Dame had a good bit of 2023 recruits on campus for it last year, players who eventually committed like Drake Bowen, Christian Gray, Preston Zinter, all prospects who have now, or are now on Notre Dame's commit list. So the Irish are doing it again this summer for the 2024 class. So already a handful of big time players that Blue and Gold's reported will be visiting. And there's a few maybes on the list as well. So go to blueandgold.com. Pinned at the top of our board, the Loose Emoji board, is the master visitor list. Kind of keep things updated there for who's coming in that weekend. But it's already looking to be a strong weekend. And as we get closer, July 26th, we'll know more.
Was last year's event the one you told me about? You had sources say that the barbecue had to be a little better.
That's good. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, but sources tell me that there will be better seasoning. I don't know, Darren. I'm just joking with
you. Let's go to a wide receiver that Notre Dame is very interested in. Jaden Greathouse sounds like he's going to be picking his school in just a couple of days. Mike, Notre Dame's had some recent success bringing in wide receivers. I guess, pardon the pun, but how great would it be to get Jaden as a part of this Irish class?
Yeah, we just talked about one Austin area player in Austin Novosad, and here's another one in Jaden Greathouse. He's announcing on July 15th. It's down to Notre Dame, Texas, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. The On3 recruiting prediction machine has the Irish listed with a 96.1% shot to land him, and obviously that's a very high percentage. I don't know if it should be that high, but Notre Dame is the team to beat going into his announcement, and it would be a really impressive recruiting win going into Austin and beating out Texas for a wide receiver that I hope that the Longhorns side, after, if this does happen, Notre Dame lands, I hope the Longhorns side doesn't go, we didn't want him anyway. That's the worst. It will be a really impressive recruiting win. Highly productive receivers, 6'2", 220, the prototypical boundary wide receiver. Darren, he's really good. When Rico Flores committed to Notre Dame on July 3rd, I talked about how, technically sound he is. Just a really well-rounded player. Jaden Greathouse fits that as well. A guy who I think could play day one. So my predictions on Notre Dame, it has been for, I think, a couple months now, if not longer. And we'll see on Friday. But again, I do like Notre Dame to land as 4-star receiver.
Mike, you're going to be enjoying a little vacation next week. So let me play the what if game for a moment. If Greathouse picks Notre Dame, how much has Notre Dame accomplished in recruiting at the wide receiver position in 2023? Because we knew it was going to be a big year. The Irish had to hit some home runs.
Yeah, kudos to to Chancey Stuckey. Like Notre Dame fans didn't really want Chancey Stuckey at first. It was like, Jamarcus Shepard or Holman Wiggins, who were at, Purdue, and I think Shepard's now at Washington and Wiggins still in Alabama. But a lot of Notre Dame fans, at least on our message board, were like, we want, or Stuckey's our last choice. And here he comes in. Braylon James, Notre Dame had been recruiting. He was not interested in Notre Dame, really. Stuckey comes in. Freeman, being Notre Dame's head coach, made a big difference there as well. But got to give a ton of credit to Stuckey, landing Braylon James, another Austin area player, landing Rico Flores. Someone like I interviewed Rico yesterday, actually, and he told me that he had a good relationship with L. Alexander, but I don't think their personalities really clicked. And Stuckey and Freeman just kind of took over the recruitment. Notre Dame wasn't going to make Flores' initial top 10 that he put out. He put out last winter. Notre Dame, it was included in it. He wasn't going to put the Fighting Irish in there initially. And then you land Jaden Greathouse. I mean, if they just end with 3 receivers in the class, I think you're going to call that a very successful group. Then you might get Ronan Hannafin out of Massachusetts. If Notre Dame lands Jeremiah Love, a running back recruit out of St. Louis, I wouldn't rule him out from potentially being a receiver one day. Notre Dame sources tell me that he is an outstanding slot receiver. So it's a good feeling right now for Notre Dame Nation looking at receiver recruiting, something they haven't been able to say in a couple years since that Deion Colsey, Lorenzo Styles class. Yeah, Darren, it was a huge position of need. Cornerback was a huge position of need, and Notre Dame did well there. We'll see how it finishes out. I think they might be done at specifically corners in this class with Michael Bell and Christian Gray. Now it's just, what do they do at quarterback?